Hi, I'm Kim,
I'm Torra.
and this is our podcast, Parenting Young Adults with Kimm and Torra. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, Torra, um, I guess today one of the things we wanted to talk about, which we carried over from the last episode,
Mhm.
is abortion.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was definitely something that's been going around lately, due to everyone being shacked up because of COVID and having little boyfriends, and just certain things like that. And we've had that discussion in our house about getting pregnant, abortion, teen pregnancy. Of course, I don't know if I can say I'm a victim anymore. I'm too old to be a victim of teen pregnancy, but I definitely was a teen mom, and I felt like it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life, and I wouldn't wish it on them. So they asked me, as girls, which they've said, oh, it would never happen. But if we ever got pregnant, would you make us keep it? And I was thinking, I just had a granddaughter and she is just everything to me. And once you see life and see how beautiful it is, I get it. Like, I get having a kid with a guy who you have nothing really going for you. You're not in love, you don't see yourself marrying this person, but can you separately love something that comes from just you? I can understand that question of, you know, how someone might not want to, have a kid, but with so much technology and so many different options, I'm like, why wouldn't you want it? Why
So,
wouldn't I would never want to give it up for an adoption, because I'm like, I don't want anybody raising anything that, belongs to us. But that's just me, my selfishness. But yeah, I just I don't know. I'm pro-life, but I'm also pro-choice.
so your answer to them was more or less, yeah, we'd have to keep it. That's
We
what
have
it
to keep
sounds like.
it. Yeah, yeah, we'd have to keep it.
I guess I will hope we never face that, but I think every parent would hope that. My conversations with my children around that have been use some protection. Bottom line,
Mhm.
use a condom, use something like that, because even for the day after pill, that's effectively abortion.
It is. It really is.
That is a
I've known
child
several
has
people
been
who've used that
created.
day after pill.
Yeah, that's a child has
Mhm.
been created, and then on the back end, you're going to get rid of it before the pregnancy takes effect, I guess.
Mhm. Are
Um,
you pro-life also, or
I
decision?
am pro-choice, but I'm also pro-life. Sort of like you. Like I
Yep.
believe that a woman should have the option
Yeah.
if she so chooses.
Mhm.
But I think that's a really hard decision to make. It's
Mhm.
probably a decision that one would regret.
Mhm.
And so, if at all possible, we want to make sure we can preserve life. It's just a
Yeah.
really, I think that anytime a woman is in that kind of situation, then it's a really tough situation. If you're contemplating as a woman whether or not you should get an abortion, then I think you're in a complicated situation and there's no easy answer. And with regard to what you were saying about can the mother treat the child
Mhm.
properly even though that child may remind her of somebody she
Yep.
doesn't have relationship with, I would
Mhm.
hope that they can do that, but I think we've all heard stories of
Yes.
women treating their children poorly and you're just like your daddy, or
Huh?
saying every time they see the child they see that man. So
Whatever bad vibes he might have given them, you can't, love them or think of them separately. And that's something that I hope I taught them, to think of all of those options before you even, and I hate saying make a mistake, but make a mistake. Like bringing a child into the world that you really don't want. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. It's nothing wrong with saying I don't want kids right now. It's nothing wrong with saying I don't want children, period. But it's really something wrong with, to me, is bringing a child here that you really don't want, because if you do give the child up for an adoption and the child grows up in either a bad household or a good household, if it ever wants to come back and find you, it's always that void of why did you give me away?
not
They
to
can say
mention,
whatever you want, but I have too many friends that have been adopted, and some of them have very loving homes. I even have family members that has been adopted by loving families, and they're traumatized by the fact that either their mother or their father might have passed on, but their mother doesn't want to have anything to do with them, and they're traumatized by it, and they just keep, and it's just more, and it's more than just my one friend. So yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay.
I had no idea.
I think that also as the from the perspective of the woman who's given the child up for adoption,
Mhm.
I personally think that would be haunting. I think that will haunt you forever that there's some child out there
Yeah.
that you've given birth to, you don't
Mhm.
know where they are, what happened to them, how things are going. I understand that there are circumstances where, people feel that they don't have a choice but to give the child up for adoption. And I'm not saying anything negative
No,
about
no,
that.
not at
I'm
all.
just
Right.
saying I think that has to be really tough to
Right.
know that you have a child out there and you have no connection with that child and you have no way of
And
knowing.
that's something I can't live with, and I would ask them not to put that on me. My children, I would ask them not to put that on me to have my grandchild out there in the world and I don't have a clue what's happening to it or what someone's doing to it, whether it's loving them or taking good care of them and or hurting them. I just don't want that for me. So I definitely, we got into a really deep conversation about abortions and bringing unwanted children into a world that you're not ready for. So
So we on our end, we talk more about what you need to do to prevent that on the front end. I
mhm.
do understand that that's
You
I'm
have had
sure.
sex talk with your kids?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So to me, on this one point about abortion and teen pregnancy, of course, it will affect our daughters very much differently than it would affect our sons. Like you had said on a previous
Yeah.
episode, that
Mhm.
your son is a good father, but he's not living day to day with that
No,
child the way
no,
that mother is.
that's
And if
right.
my son were to get pregnant, I mean, well, if
I know
he
what you
was to
mean.
get a
Yeah.
woman pregnant,
Mhm.
chances are, unless he's really in love and they're going to be together, he wouldn't be living with that child either. Now, with him being a junior and just having one more year in college,
Mhm.
as long as he finished that year, I think we could make it through it more easily.
Okay.
My daughter having just started and then also being the girl who would have that child with her, I
Mhm.
think it would be much more disastrous in terms
I
of
I
her
think so.
ability to continue on the course that she's on. So,
I
um,
think it would make it so much harder. My niece was in that predicament. I mean, she's the strongest woman I know. She ended up, having a kid while she was at college and she was at Norfolk and she had to drop out because she got pregnant, but then she went back to college when she moved to North Carolina and graduated. But she often told me she loves her daughter without a question. But if she knew then what she had known, if she knew now what she had known then, um, that she wouldn't have had any kids. It's
Yeah,
almost
I think
like
it's more like a timing issue. Not that the person wouldn't love their child, but it's the
yeah,
timing. And
it's a,
I have friends and relatives who've
mhm,
done the same thing,
mhm.
had a child and dropped out and circled back and made it happen and got that degree. But it just seemed to me
And it seemed
that it made it so
victorious,
much more
right?
difficult.
But it's so much harder. It seems so
Yeah.
victorious when they do that, but it's so much harder when they do that. And I wish, but when another thing is sometimes people can make it look easy. When other from the outside looking in, they're like, oh, well, so and so had a baby and she graduated from college and she's got a good career. And it's like, no, you need to talk to them and see. And I've talked to my niece, and she's told me on several occasions, like, it was the hardest thing she's ever done. And she had to do it by herself.
And
By
not only that, I've seen it from the outside. I've seen a girlfriend do it, and I see the effects in her children
Okay.
because there are times when it would have perhaps been better for her to be honing in on the raising of those children, but she
Mhm.
was trying to do her homework and trying to do this, and I admire her. She was juggling a lot, but it's just not an easy thing to do. But I commend anybody
Oh
who's
yeah,
done it because it certainly
absolutely.
is tough. So
Absolutely.
you were asking me if I discuss sex with my children.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know that I've discussed it as thoroughly as I should have with my son, but
Mhm.
certainly with my daughter.
Okay.
I think I probably did. What I do before they go to college, I spend that whole summer just having a whole bunch of talks, talks, talks,
Yeah.
talks. So
Yeah.
he and I did, but it's been 3 years ago. I'm sure I talked about sex.
Mhm.
Hers was just this past summer. We would walk the neighborhood and talk, talk, talk about all kinds of things. And some of the things I was talking to her about was you're 18 now. I'm not going to be saying, don't have sex, you can't have sex.
Right.
What I am saying is make sure you do it with somebody who is worth your time.
Oh,
Don't be
yes,
pressed
amen.
into it so you won't regret it. If you have had sufficient time to build a relationship with that person and you're doing it because it's what you willingly want to do, even if that may not be your lifelong love, and even if it's not and you eventually break up,
Right.
because it was that kind of environment, you're not going to regret it.
Nah.
She's 18 and it's time for, I mean, I don't expect you to be celibate till marriage. So
Mhm.
let's talk about how you should do it, with whom, so you end up feeling good about it and don't let
Absolutely.
anybody pressure you into doing it before you're ready.
And you know how you hear some mothers, I'm not, my kids aren't like this with me at all, but I hear so many mothers and daughters say, oh, my mother's like my best friend and we talk about everything. And I'm like, when you say everything, you mean like, they're like, oh yeah, she tells me about, her boyfriend and what they do. I don't have that relationship. Oh yeah,
That's
I
a
don't
lot.
have with my son or daughter. I don't have that
Yeah.
relationship. I joke with them about certain things and they're appalled. They're like, oh, mom, don't say that. Don't talk like that. And I'm like, what? Just to move the, pieces back just so I can see where they are. And they're not having it. So I often wonder, when you discuss sex with your children, is it the actual intercourse? Like, because there's certain things in sex that girls need to know about a man's anatomy. And then there's certain things that boys need to know about a female anatomy. And some are bad for you, some can be bad for you, and some can come with the diseases and lifelong diseases. And I'm always like wanting to know, when parents say they have such a relationship with their children that they talk about certain, what is that? Like, I don't have that, so
I
I
don't
don't
have
know.
that kind of relationship. We're having conversations about sex as a topic in general and
Mhm.
not sex with a particular person or how
Okay.
that works out. I
Hmm.
also am not aware, so you might need to be schooling me with my two kids, grown kids having. So
Hmm.
I'm not aware of anatomical issues that present a problem.
Hmm.
Well, not so much. I guess I could think of a few things now that I'm thinking about it,
Hmm.
but I haven't talked to them on that level. I would be open to, not about a specific person. I don't want to know about, the ins and outs of their sex life, but we
I
can talk in
know.
general about those kinds of things if they have. I say, if you have any questions, tell me, but I would be curious to know what are
Okay.
some of those things that perhaps we should have, or maybe I should circle back. And
Hmm.
what are some anatomy issues that my daughter should know or my son should know?
Yeah, and it's funny, and I have that conversation because I have one brother who I have a very close. Well, I'm close with both of my brother, all of my brothers, but this one, he came to me when he was a teenager, and he says something ain't right, something ain't right, and I was like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "I don't know." So I took him to the doctors, and it was nothing. But in his mind, because he had heard so many stories in the street, that he thought that maybe he had gotten something from this girl that he was dating, but it wasn't anything, but it was just. And that always stuck with me, that the streets teach our kids, and they talk, we have girlfriend talk, but they have, I guess, girlfriend boyfriend talk too, but it's it can be displaced and it can be taught wrong. And so that always stayed with me about my brother.
So you're meaning about STDs and stuff like that? Or you're
Yeah,
mean, I
just
was thinking
anything, not even just STDs, but the anatomy, the whole, size, shape,
size. That's the
you
only
know,
thing that
the,
occurred to
the
me was
broken the
size.
broken thing, if something ain't in the right shape as the other thing, and all
Oh,
these different things
okay.
can
Well,
happen. And
I haven't
yeah.
had those conversations, but if it comes up, I'm gonna have it. I don't mind
Mhm.
talking about anything, but I wouldn't want anyone coming to me saying X and I are intimate
Right,
now,
right.
and
Right. That's
but
what I want to know. I want to know, how do your kids talk? Like, my kids are still, I can say, really amateur night when it comes to talking to me about their personal stuff. They're very amateur night. They don't have it in them to say, okay, mom, this happened or that happened, or what would happen if this. They don't have that. And I don't
my
I don't
kids
have that
don't
with
do
my
that.
mother either.
I didn't do that. My mother didn't raise me, so we were
Mhm.
more like really close friends and we
Mhm.
talked all the time. But I didn't even have those kinds of conversations with her.
No.
But I
And my
do,
mother makes jokes with us too. She'll say stuff, that'll make us be like, ah, stop it. Don't say that in front of your children. But yeah, we don't have that relationship.
I mean, I'm going to actually say something to each of them this week about if you run into any issues. I think that they might, well, now that they're in college, they could just go to the health center
Mhm.
if they had an STD
Mhm.
scare or, God forbid, a pregnancy
Mhm.
scare or something
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
But I am going to say to them, if there's a question in general that comes
Mhm.
up that you feel you need to have an answer to, ask me or go on
Yeah.
YouTube and
Mhm.
watch some videos so you can get the real story and not the old my
Right.
buddy
We're
told me,
from the
my
street,
girlfriend
right?
said,
I
because
mean,
that's not
listen,
good.
I was listening to another person who has a show, and they were saying all the rumors that they grew up with about certain things, and I was like, oh my god, I totally heard those same things, amongst our friends. And I think I just was smart enough to not buy into any of it. But I do know that, like, I'm listening to a lot of young people on social media, and a lot of girls are open, like just open with everything that's going on. They're saying stuff like, guys are throwing their pH balance off because what a man puts in his body, if they're not using protected sex with a condom or anything, that it can get into your body, and
And
certain
then vice
questions like
versa with
that.
the woman
Yeah,
with
and vice versa with the woman. Absolutely.
I haven't had those conversations in particular, but I don't know. I think that's a lot. I think that people are saying a lot. My position is use a condom until you with that person that you're ready to marry. That's
Absolutely.
really the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Use a condom. Now, will they do that? I hope
Mhm.
so.
Mhm.
They're readily available everywhere. But my daughter and my son are not having those in-depth conversations either. As my
Are we
understanding,
ready for that? I mean, if they come to you,
I
are you
will.
ready for that?
I will. I will. I mean, my job is to talk about or do whatever I need to do to get
Mhm.
them through their or to help them with their journey.
Okay.
So I might be cringing inside, like, oh my God, I
Yeah.
probably would say,
Yeah.
oh my God, I really don't even quite know how to handle this, but
Right. Right.
let's talk about it. If it means enough for you to come to me and
Mhm.
ask me a question, then that's really something I need to address.
Totally agree. And I just think we as moms, we just know our children, and we know what they need, and we're able to help them, even if it is just taking them to the doctors after they've told us what they're going through, or what they might have gone through. I just feel like as moms, we know more, we know better. So, like, come to us, talk to us. I know you have friends, and you all have y'all stories, because we were young too. We know, but it's nothing like telling somebody who actually have the maturity of life, that they can handle it.
And I tell them that too, that your friends are going to see things at that same level you do because they
Yeah.
haven't had that level of experience, even if they're really trying to help you.
Oh
But they
yeah.
don't have all these decades of
No,
experience that
no,
I
they
have
don't.
to see things go well, poorly, and
Yeah.
everything in between to bring that to the table. So, are you involved with their dating life, like who they're dating, how often they're dating, that sort of
Um,
thing?
I'm definitely am, and my oldest daughter, she's just always cautious of who she brings around me, because she knows that I go in. I want to know everything other than their social security number. Like, I need to know these things. I need to know who their mom is, their dad is, their where they grew up, how they grew up. I'm always leery of that, because I didn't have that. I could date whoever I want, I could see whoever I want, and no one actually cared. And I think that caused a lot of stress in my dating life. I mean, I felt like if I had a more of a parental input in
Mhm.
my dating life, I think I could have made better choices. I mean, I
Mhm.
really do think that I would have gotten a better selection of guys to pick through when I was younger. But I could date whoever I wanted, and I just think that if you have a parent there, and it holds the kids to a higher standard. So I'm very much into my son, daughters, both of their dating lives, and it's almost like they know. Don't even bring the person around me until they know if I want to hear about the person. I want to know about the person, but they're like, Mom, you can't meet him yet, or Mom, you can't meet her yet. And I'm like, Okay.
I don't think my kids are actually dating enough. Cause
Mhm.
like I told you that my son had a relationship very early on in high
Mhm.
school. I really haven't known him to be seriously involved with anybody since
Okay.
then.
Okay.
And sometimes he'll say, well, he didn't want to get distracted in college, but it's
Okay.
about time. And then even with my daughter, I mean, she will tell me I'm dating this
Mhm.
person or I'm talking to this person, but she's not in
Do
any
you meet them?
serious relationship. Well, um, the one person here before she left, yes, she brought him
Mhm.
over to meet me. And then the person that she dated first semester in college, they were in college. I didn't meet him. I don't know if I maybe saw him on a FaceTime,
Mhm.
probably, but I didn't, I wasn't there. I didn't actually meet him and it didn't really go anywhere. She ended that. But I do talk to them about it would be nice to date more so you can get more
Mhm.
of an idea of what you like, what you don't like. And I also have specifically talked to them about when it's time to pick their mate, I would like to participate because I like to break curses and I got divorced and I want to help them pick a mate that there's enough room to grow where they
Mhm.
wouldn't get divorced. There's
Okay.
no guarantee on that. And
No.
there's no guarantee that they're going to listen to a word I said and won't come home and be like, bam, getting
Right.
married, So, but the only thing we can do is say it and try to set up the framework.
Right. That's my fear. I want them to listen to me, to know that I know better, but I feel like they're just going to do whatever they want anyway. And that's something that, I keep saying to them, if you listen to me, you can skip past all the drama because I've done all that for you. So you can just skip past all of that and enjoy yourself if you only listen. But it's like, no, they have to experience everything on their own. I'm like, oh,
Well, that's how life works. And so with me on the flip side, I was able to date pretty much whoever. I mean, I was
mhm,
gone. I did what I pretty much wanted
right.
to.
I think that was
Um,
our era, don't you? For the most part.
hmm.
I think that was our era for the most part.
Probably so, but like I feel like I turned out fine. And I mean, I don't think I made the best choices.
Me neither.
Obviously, I'm divorced, but I feel like I turned out fine. And so I don't, that's how my mind is. I
Mhm.
feel like they're fine. Everything's going to be fine. Everything works out. Whatever happens, we'll, deal with it. But it really would be nice if they could meet each of them a
Oh,
lifelong partner.
yes.
Ups, downs, it's going to be, there are going to be things, but just to avoid the divorce piece, if at all
See, and
possible.
you did to me, you did everything the right way. Like you went to school, you got your education, you got married, you had your children. That to me is where every parent dream for their child.
And then I got divorced. There's no easy answer.
But
You know
but
what
the
I mean?
divorce part is like not even that big of a deal because it's like you did everything right, you know? So that's the order of life for you, and then you still have much more life and living to share, you know?
That's
But
true.
I did everything backwards. I had the children. I didn't finish
You had
school.
the one
Then I
child
got
first,
I
or
had the one child first and I was actually pregnant when I got married.
okay,
I think I was like 2 months pregnant when I got married, and
with Victoria,
with Mia.
with Mia.
I was pregnant with her, and then I had more. I had another one. So it's like I did everything backwards. There was nothing I did right.
But your kids are fine. Your son is fine. He's
Yeah.
an actor in California. Your
Mhm.
daughters are in college. You're married. That's the whole thing. It doesn't really matter. Well, I mean, it matters, and
It
it
matters,
certainly matters to you in
right?
terms of how you feel about
Mhm.
the path you took. But at the end of the day, to me, it worked out, and that's the part that really makes the
But
difference.
I don't want to live with regret, but I do have regrets that I didn't put my career first. I
Oh,
do have regrets that I didn't, what they say now, do me first. I didn't. The oxygen in the airplane scenario, I put their mask on.
oh.
And I've been sipping air ever since. And I often want to always talk to people like you and find out, do you have that feeling of completion? If I'd gone in your direction, is there a feeling of completion?
I'm gonna be honest with you, and I hate to
Please
ever
do.
say any stuff like this because I don't want to. you know,
Tell the truth. I
feel
need
like
to
I'm
hear it.
acting a certain way, but to be honest with you, I am so gratified
Okay.
on so many levels.
Hmm.
Like, and I tell my children, just keep on going. Like I tell my son, just keep walking. You're on the right path. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, because I do think that when you focus on your education when you're younger, you don't always realize the significance of it. But down the road, you can rely on that. You have it. You can work with that. And then even I tell them it's better to get married before you have your children,
Oh yeah.
because see how you and your husband are still together.
Hmm.
My ex and I are not, but because we were married, I'm not sure that's the reason, but I'm sure it's more given the guy that he is.
Hmm.
But the fact that we were married plays a big part in that, because he has continued to be involved with them.
Hmm.
Looking at my friends who have
Hmm.
had children without marrying the father,
Hmm.
is so much easier for that guy to walk away, for
Oh,
that relationship to fall apart.
oh yeah.
It just seems like it works better if you get married first. But I feel a sense of completion, and I started feeling it as they both started getting near the end of high school.
Mhm.
I started feeling a sense of relief, like, man, because I know you feel this too. It's a really big deal to raise some people from a little baby
Yeah.
to big walking, talking,
Yeah.
college going
Yeah.
people. So that's just a sense of every parent who didn't raise their own kids.
Yeah.
I want to say to them, man, you missed out.
You missed
It
out.
was hard, but
You
you
missed
missed
out.
out because we have
Yes.
a
It was
sense
very hard, but
of
I
freedom
that's
somewhere.
the part of life that keeps me grounded, humble, and like you say, with gratitude, because I'm very grateful that um they are who they are. You
Yes.
know, I don't know. Maybe if they they were something different, maybe I'd be like, oh, it was all a big waste. But no, they are very. All three of my kids are very good, scholared, beautiful, well-rounded, very culturally rounded people, and I'm
Who are
very
going to
proud of them.
contribute to society. You know
Very
they
much.
are. But I
Yes.
will tell you, I have some friends who have some children
Mhm.
who did not go to college, who
Mhm.
are struggling, working every day, and all of that. And they also feel a great sense of accomplishment at
Mhm.
having raised their children. I mean, I think unless your kids are like strung out on drugs or
Drugs or
something
in
really
jail and
extreme,
out just doing everything and harming society. Yeah.
yeah, I think unless it's something like that, I think the parental satisfaction kicks in. With regard to the career,
Hmm.
um, there was a little period of time where I had kicked the law to the curb. I
Okay.
had worked at those large firms down like downtown DC,
Hmm.
and that's like a sweatshop. You just work, 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 work. And I felt dissatisfaction. And I
Uh-huh.
moved to Florida and worked at a firm there, and it really wasn't what I wanted. I kicked that stuff to the side and
And you
started
were able to
writing.
move like this because you don't have any children. Do
I
you
don't have any
realize that?
children. Right.
You don't have a husband that where are you? Where are you going when you coming home? I'm lonely, whatever. You see
But
that? That's my
I
point.
was dating my ex then. I knew I've known him for like, oh my God, forever. So I
Mhm.
was dating him, but we
Mhm.
weren't engaged. We weren't married. I could do what I
And you
wanted.
felt free.
But I kicked all of that law thing to the side. I have a couple novels that I've written. I
Mhm.
started writing books, teaching GED, teaching SAT courses. I was like, I don't feel like it. I like the law. I love the law, but I
Ah.
don't want to do anything that is just, you got to be there at 9 till midnight. You're just
Mhm.
waking up. You're working 48 days straight. You don't have any weekend. I don't want any of that in my life. So I let it go. And then once I got married and I got pregnant with my son,
Mhm.
that's when I said, okay, I'm going to go back to the law, because
What?
to create, income for my child.
What?
And the way I did it was to, I think I had mentioned this before, but
Mhm.
I worked at home as
Mhm.
as a case law editor.
Mhm.
So I was underemployed. I wasn't making as much as I
Mhm.
could have made, but I was bringing income in. And then he didn't have to go to daycare. And then when I got
Oh,
pregnant with my
okay.
daughter,
Mhm.
she didn't either. And so it wasn't until she went to preschool that then I went back out and really went whole hog on the career. But that first job that I had was a job, it was a great job with the government,
Mhm.
but it was far and it took a lot of my time up.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Do
I
you
didn't
feel
like
like that your kids were missing you or you were missing them when you were into your career?
I didn't realize it, but my dad had passed away around that time,
Mhm.
and I wasn't that happy with that job. I'm not really a great I don't love just somebody always telling me what to do and all that.
Mhm.
So I left that job and I realized afterwards that I wasn't having as much of an impact on my kids as I wanted to,
Oh.
and that it seemed to me that they were a bit similar to the girlfriend that I had watching them for me. So I was so glad I quit. And then I've never really, then I practiced law in ways where it was really my own firm. Like for a long time, I had a contract with the DC government to
Mhm.
be a hearing officer.
Mhm.
But I actually, in this office I'm sitting in right now, I
Mhm.
did all my motions, my pre hearing conferences, everything here. The only thing I had to do was go in to conduct the actual hearing, to have the lawyers present their witnesses and to get the documents. And then I would still come back here and read over and review and write my decisions. And that worked a lot better for me. But I mean, my kids saw me grind. They saw me staying up till
Wow.
2 and 3 in the morning. When we went on
Wow.
vacation, there was always one day when I would say, okay, today I have to work. I mean,
Oh.
they saw the grind, but I was still able to be with them all the time. And for that reason, I mean, I could pick them up from their little private school.
Mhm.
For
Mhm.
that reason, it's not so bad for me. But I think that based on my year and a half where I worked that job while they were young, I might have a different answer if I didn't have a profession and if I wasn't blessed, because there are a lot of lawyers who
Yes.
work at firms. I was just blessed. It wasn't always easy. And
Mhm.
financially, it was not a
Feel
straight
like you led with such a great example raising your children that they have nothing but respect for your hustle and your grind. I really do because well your work ethic. But um I feel like my kids take that for granted with me because I was a devoted mother to them. Like I was stay at home. I never missed nothing. A recital, a play, a gymnastics meet, a date, whatever, a birthday, nothing, anything they wanted, they got from me. I gave it all to them. And I did it because I didn't have that. That
Well,
wasn't the
that's
relationship.
beautiful. That's a beautiful sacrifice. They don't understand the
No,
sacrifices
they don't
you
see
made, though.
it. Well, my
That's a
daughter, actually,
beautiful
my oldest did
sacrifice.
pay homage to me a couple weeks back. We had a big family discussion with all three of my kids, and she definitely was like, Mom, I really am happy that you're the loving parent and you're the one that we learn love from because she's like their father is more militant. He's not as mushy as I am, but I'm very affectionate with them and just always trying to be in their space. So she did say that, but
That's
I feel
beautiful.
like you
That's
know
beautiful. No, that's what you isn't that what you want? I want them to, I mean, I don't want them to kiss my feet, but I
right.
do want them to realize that we made sacrifices. For example, as a single parent, there are relationships that I didn't pursue or
Mhm,
that I couldn't really make last
mhm.
because I didn't want people around my children. And some
Yeah,
men are
that's
not okay
definitely
with
something I
that.
wanted to talk about.
Yeah, some men are not okay with that. There was a pretty long relationship that I had with another attorney, and
Mhm,
I know the fact that I didn't want them coming downstairs to seeing a
mhm.
man at the kitchen table. I
Yeah,
didn't want them to see a man going in my bedroom or being in my bedroom and stuff like that. And so it causes problems. It was a big
it does.
sacrifice. It was worth it, and I'm not going to say that they won't live with somebody or
Right,
whatever. I
right.
did before I had them, but I feel that we make a lot of sacrifices which are not always seen.
And I don't know if they'll ever see it until they're grown with children because I really think I did my kids a disservice. And the reason why I say that because I think I made them think that parenting is easy and it looks easy. I really do. I have that
You
fear.
made it look easy.
I really do. I believe in my heart that I think I've made this thing look so easy to them that they're just like, but when it happens, I don't think that they're gonna realize, well, how are you in 8 places at one time? And for all of us, like
Mhm.
all three of us. None of us missed out on you, you know? And I had a tragedy in 2004 where I got burned in a house fire. And it was my son's senior year. And he, you know, when we were having the family discussion, he said to me, you know, how come you made my senior year so bad? You know, it was so bad. And I was like, well, what year was your senior year? And, you know, when he said it, I was like, well, you do know that was the year I got burned. And so it was like every day I had to get up with, you know, I was burned over 64% of my body with fourth and third degree burns. And I had to get up every day and take care of all three of you. Now imagine all three of you and you only have one. And I'm like your age now with three kids and burn like pretty
And
much
in
beyond
pain
recognition.
and
Right.
dealing with those wounds and
Oh
all of
my God.
that.
And I was like, every day I had to dress them. Every day you have to take medicine to keep you, you know, from getting infected and trying to get you. So when I was telling him this, I could literally see his face softening up a little bit, almost to say, oh, I never stopped to think of that.
Yes, he
You
did.
know what I mean?
He
And I wasn't trying to shift the, you know, the what I did off of like how, you know, I was just trying to let him know that it's a lot of layers to this parenting thing. Like, I know you feel like you got, you know, a tragic hand that was dealt for your senior year, but it wasn't my fault, you know, and I didn't mean for it to be that way. And I'm glad we were able to discuss that and talk about that. But I'm like, under no circumstance did I wake up in the morning like, okay, I'm gonna make your senior year tragedy. You know, it's like, no.
And
And
not only that, the fact that he could see the clear difference between what things had been before and what happened his senior
that's
year, that's a testament to how much you were doing as well, because he was able to miss it. You know, there was a time when my mother and a female lawyer that was a friend of mine used to say to me, "You do too much.
mm-hmm.
You do too much for them because it's two of them, just me. Their dad worked the evening shift all the time, even when we were married. So when
All that life.
when they were younger, it worked because he could do breakfast or whatever.
Mhm.
But as they began to go to school, you're at home when they're at school, you're at work when they're home. That's of no assistance. You can't do anything in the evenings. So every evening there was something I had to do. And then when I separated from him and did the divorce care thing
Mhm.
on Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, either she was in gymnastics, he
Mhm.
was in this. So every day you're just
Yep.
running, running, running.
Yep.
And my mother said, "You're doing too much." Every weekend, I was looking in that family magazine.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
Yeah.
going to go to the
Yeah.
park and do the animal thing. And it was like
Free Tuesday
crazy.
at the theater down at Harvard. Now we never missed a beat. We
Or
did
the library
all the
storytelling
library story
thing.
time.
Listen,
We
and
did
they
it
were
all.
like, it's too much. They were like,
Yep.
"You're crazy." Well, my girlfriend was like, and she did help me to
Mhm.
begin to see that I needed to have more of a life than I
Yeah,
was
I
having,
didn't get that.
because parenting and working can take your whole life up. But my mother was like, "They don't
Yeah.
need all those activities. You shouldn't have to go every single day, all weekend, just doing, doing, doing. They're gonna be okay if you don't do all that."
And I didn't have anyone. I was around a circle of people that were pretty much doing the same thing I was doing. So there was no, anyone saying, well, what do we do for fun or what do we do for our time? And it wasn't until I started seeing that they could stay in the house for a little, a little while by themselves, like an hour or so, before I started, going to maybe the gym or, just going out to eat by myself. I still felt guilty. I think I still feel guilty. And
Yeah,
that's why when I do
what are
have
you feeling guilty for now? Mia's not even there half the
not
time.
even here, and
Your son's not
literally
there.
and it's just like even like girls trips. I have never taken like a girls trip yet. And I no, I haven't at all. And I
I
just
took
cannot.
one about 3 years ago with some women that I went to high school with, who are actually pretty
Oh,
on the ball, and some of their friends. We went on a cruise.
oh,
Plus,
that is
I
my
went to Africa, and
dream.
I would take trips.
Yes.
I would take trips.
I do want that to, and my children right now, they're pushing for that. They're like, you need to, of course, because of COVID, everybody's like,
COVID, yeah.
whatever, but they definitely want me to go out and they want me to take trips and hang out. And they're like, Ma, it's time for you to
It's your
live. And I'm like,
time.
you okay? Are you serious? And
And
and everyone in this
what
house
would
has
we
had a life.
What
everyone.
would be the alternative? It's your time now.
Yeah.
Victoria's in college. She's
Yep.
there. She's doing her own thing.
Hmm.
Mia's not really there. Your son's not really
Yep.
there. What responsibilities do you really have other if it wasn't for COVID, other than
Yeah.
to do
And I really don't understand,
whatever
like,
you're
how could
doing?
this, I mean, it literally happened her senior year. Like, she didn't even graduate from high school
They were in
because,
the same
yes.
they were in the same grade, same
Oh,
cheerleading. They didn't get a graduation, they didn't get a
nothing.
prom,
Anything.
they
So
didn't
I'm
get
just almost like,
anything.
God, what was this about? Like, you knew I was gonna blossom. This was gonna be my moment. And so I still haven't figured out, what was this all about? I feel like this was because of me. I really do. I'll keep saying I
Wasn't.
because I'm
But
like,
you know what? I took them on trips. I took them out of the country. I took
mhm,
them on cruises and all
mhm.
that. And I managed to get, I would say there were
The
only
only time
two.
I've gone anywhere is with my children, with my
Well, I
family.
got
I've
that
never
one
gone.
cruise. I did the one cruise and I
Mhm.
did the one trip to Africa. But for the most part, it was always about let me take them. I
Yep,
want them to see Key West. I
yep,
want them to see Grand Cayman. I
yep.
want them to go to Miami. So it was just always mom, mom,
And
mom.
right, and I love hanging out with them. Don't get me wrong. That's no regret there. But it's just that I do. I flew out to LA. It was more so supposed to be for like a spiritual retreat, mental health spiritual retreat, but it flopped. It didn't happen. But that was my first time flying or doing something by myself. But it wasn't a trip. You know,
Well, we're going to take a girls' trip when COVID gets off of our
yeah,
back because
yeah.
I'm always ready to go. And I would love to go to LA, wherever we want to go.
Yes, LA is very
Game. We go to
fun,
Puerto
very
Rico,
open city. I love
Barbados.
it.
I'll go
Yeah,
wherever.
I'm
I'm
so
always
ready to do all
game
of that.
for that.
So ready. And
But
my kids
I
definitely
just
want
think
to.
it's a parenting is just a big job, and they'll get it. Like you said, when they have kids, I know
Mhm.
they're going to look back and say, "Oh my God, mom did all this."
Right, right. That's what I can't wait for. I really can't wait for the day that they have more than one kid and dad isn't their dad, the kid's father's not around or whatever. And they're like, wait, how do I, yeah, you got to make it work. Yeah,
So
I
did
know.
you do date night and all that stuff with your husband? Y'all didn't do any of that while you were raising the kids? Even
No,
just go upstairs, we're going to have dinner?
no, no, not really. No,
When
no.
you had your son and at some point met your husband now, did you bring your husband around your son before you were ready to get married?
Yeah, he definitely spent a lot of time with my son. My son was madly in love with him. That's kind of
Oh,
almost like
that's
the
great.
reason why I was like, okay, I guess we can get married then. Because my
That's
son, yeah,
phenomenal.
he was madly in love with, and he still to this day, he loves him. He calls him his dad. His father was alive, but he passed away. His biological father's passed away, and he wasn't really, that into his life. So he was like, the come and go dad. When I feel like being bothered, dad. It wasn't like
Yeah, which is
it
not
was,
cool.
yeah, it wasn't what I would have wanted for him. I didn't know he was going to end up like that, but
So your husband was a blessing for your
yeah,
son.
he was a blessing for him, and he has an amazing godfather, an amazing dad, and he loves him, stepdad, and he loves him, and they love each other. They definitely love each other, and they probably actually talk more than we talk. But he when he started coming around, when his father would come and get him, that's when my husband and I would do stuff together when
Mhm.
he was with his dad, because I knew that he was in a place where it was not as good as I could do it, but it was just as good,
Absolutely.
so yeah,
Right.
like my mother didn't take him, no one else really had him, but that's the only breaks I got, so it's
Girl,
the
my mother did not assist at all.
yeah,
And
mine didn't
as
either.
close as we used to be, that actually contributed to the real destruction of our relationship because if you didn't raise me and now I have kids and you're not helping me with
Yeah,
them, I mean, like, what on earth is going on here?
I
But
truly agree.
the one lawyer that I did date, my kids hated him. He he was trying to
Was he hateable, or they just being kids?
he's just arrogant. I mean,
Oh.
he's just arrogant. And so at some point I had asked him to teach my son basketball. So he was picking
Oh.
him up, taking
Mhm.
him to the local gym and all. Oh God, he does not like that man. And I don't know who he's trying to impress. Like, I guess he was rude one time, and then the next time he came and picked my son up in his little drop top Porsche and took him out to get some. My son is not impressed. They don't like him. They didn't like him, and that made it hard for me too. Like, I had hidden him from them for several years before he ever
Oh
came
yeah.
around.
Oh yeah.
And then when he came around, I just said, "This is my friend."
Okay. Okay.
But when they hated him, and they eventually it came out that we're dating, but oh God, that didn't make it any easier. I mean, I
Oh.
probably didn't need to end up with him anyway because he
Mhm.
was. You could be a lawyer without being a total, you know what, a
Yeah,
hole,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
He
You
was
gotta turn it
arrogant.
on. You gotta know when to turn it on and turn it off.
Yes, he was, but he was, I liked it.
And I
It
don't
worked for me.
know, maybe it's me, but I did date before I met my husband. And I'm not saying the guys tried to impress me by being kind to my son, but they were very, very kind to my son. I guess people knew, like if you are gonna try, you're gonna have to treat them, or treat him like
Like a
a
little king, like a
yeah.
prince.
Yeah, because
I
I knew
mean,
my son. They knew my son was very, very well mannered, and he's very well mannered, and he's never had a problem. I mean, him and his stepdad has never had a problem ever, never an argument, a disagreement, nothing ever. And I think it's because of course I would never have it. I would never have either one of them be able to do that to either one of them. It's you know what I mean? Like it would be no reason for that.
I think part of the dynamics there were that they had their dad, and
Right.
here's this
Right.
guy, you know, um, but I mean, your dad's not teaching you
Right.
basketball,
Right.
so that's
Right.
why I asked him. I wouldn't have asked him if your dad had
And
been
he's not
teaching.
there in that way. He's there in another way. He's more so there for you and trying to, have a relationship with them because of you. You know what I'm saying? So I always let that be known that, to any man, if you want to be friends with me, you have to be friends with my son. And then when I had daughters, of course, that just takes it to another level because even if my marriage didn't work or shouldn't have worked, I always thought like, how could I bring any man around them?
Around your daughter, and that
That's
is the
something
thing.
I can't do.
After I stopped dating that guy, I really just, I'm not going to say I didn't date, but I
Mhm.
never really got exactly serious with anybody because I
No,
was never bringing any man into the
no,
household around my daughter. And then
no.
by then my son was a teenager, and that always causes a lot of friction too.
Yeah.
So I just was like, I'm so close now, I'm just going to wait till I get them through high school and they go off to college, and then I'll date. And that's probably why I'm so like, I can do whatever I want now because I
Mhm.
put those restrictions on myself. I a bit regret it. I mean, I don't necessarily think that it was the best move for me. It was
Yeah.
safe for us and
Uh-huh.
they're fine, but
Mhm.
I don't know that it was the best thing for me
For
because
you.
there are plenty men who are trustworthy
Oh
around your
yeah.
kids
Oh,
and
definitely.
who, but I just kind of X'd all that out because it just made
Because
me
of the
so
one or two stories that we do hear about things going wrong. We just,
so
you know,
bad. I
yeah,
mean, it's so bad when you hear,
yeah. And
and then
to
like,
me, it's not worth it. To me, it's just not worth it. I can't, no matter how I try to slice it, I was like, no, all
but
right.
I feel that those were some younger years where I was more, whatever, and
Yeah.
it was years that I just didn't utilize in that
Uh-huh.
way. But
No.
it is what it is. It's done. And I have a girlfriend whose daughter was molested. I'm not sure
Oh,
if it was by somebody she was dating,
oh
but
my
the
God.
girl is it really messes you up.
Oh yeah.
Really
Oh, I
messes you
know
up.
it. I know it. I have so many friends that have gone through that. And I had a really good friend that I had, come stay with me for a little while to help get her through that because she was stuck in this place from when she was a child. And that happened to her that I was trying to reprogram her brain to let her have a different way of looking at that tragedy instead of, letting someone
Being
win.
victimized.
Because I always feel like no matter what someone does to you, whether they bullied you, whether they, sexually assaulted you or hurt you, it's another way you can look at it to help you get along in life and make you realize that, okay, okay, so it really didn't happen to me. This is not me for it
And
to happen to.
rise above it.
Right, right.
Because otherwise that person continues to
To
victimize you
victimize you and they
because
enjoy
it's in
it
your
wherever
mind.
they are, wherever they are. And I say they enjoy it wherever they are, meaning they don't even think of you. They
But
don't
they're
even
in
give
your
you but
head now.
you're thinking of them every moment of every day. And so I don't know what that is that I have, but I definitely know that from all the things I've known and all the things I've gone through, even with being burned, I can look at it in a different way than the way it's supposed to be dealt. So it helps me to teach other people, or show other people how to look at life when they've had tragedies, that you don't want to succumb to your injuries. And that's something why I just, for my children, I just never wanted to put that on them. I never wanted to bring that tragedy to them. That could, I mean, not that I would allow that to happen, or not that I would even bring anybody around them that even had, but you just don't know.
You never know. But yeah, I agree with you. You have to rise above
Mhm.
whatever's going on. And oh, and that's another reason why I really would never, even once I had determined to go back to the law, I
Mhm.
would never go to a firm or anything like that, because I wanted to protect my children from what could happen while mom's out there having to work.
Oh, yeah,
You have to
yeah.
have a nanny and be in daycare. Your grandmother's not going to help me. So I'm going to have to pay people. And
Wow.
I don't know those people. And
Mhm.
that's the reason why I was underemployed once I got pregnant with him,
Mhm.
because I just wanted to be able to stay home and
Yeah.
make sure they were okay. They can't even, a baby can't even say, this lady slapped my
Right,
legs,
right,
or, I mean, you
right.
don't know what people are doing.
And that's to me was even with my granddaughter, like I was contemplating on, like, should I move closer to her so I can just be there for her and her mother? Because those are the things that I think about. Like, and I get told this all the time, like, take a seat,
Who's telling you to take a seat?
so many people tell me, take a seat, like, this is your son and baby, this is not yours. But in my mind and in my heart, I feel it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, and I am taking several back seats, because the tour that I would have been already did everything I needed to do to just be close. But I'm trying to, like, give them their time. She's, just turning a year in March, and I'm trying to just give them the time with their baby before I feel like I'm just going to take over.
I think that has to be really hard. I
It's
think that
so hard
that's
for
really
me.
hard, because I have certainly had conversations with my children about, just because you're becoming a grown person now, when, like my daughter, when you have the baby, or my son too, I'm gonna come,
Yep.
just I'm
And I
gonna
feel
come
it
and
in me, like
stay
I'm
for a couple
scratching and
months
itching
and
every
all
day.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
that's got to be very hard. I don't think that you need to be taking any seats, but at the same time, it would be not so great to see you really devoting yourself to raising your
And that's
grandchild
all
when
I
you're
know.
just getting
Yep.
to the point of freedom for
Right,
yourself from
right.
your own
And that's
children.
what I feel like. I feel like God did that for a reason. I'm like, right when I said, God, I need 3 years just to do what I want. And within months, I had this beautiful granddaughter that I'm just like, oh my God. God, what are you saying? Is this what I'm put here for? If this is what I'm put here, I need you to knock on the door, open it, and say, yeah, this is it. This is what you were put here for, to raise kids, love kids, and be there for them. Because I feel like that's all I really want to do. But then I also want to have that moment in my life where, because I told you, I had my youngest, I got pregnant at 16. So I was a very young mother, and I've been going ever since.
Ever
So
since.
I don't know any other life. I don't even know really how to live without children
Wow.
around. So
Okay.
I do want to experience that. That's why I had I was going to say, I did do a best friend. She did take me away. It had to be over 18 years ago. We went to Miami for just a weekend, and it's been about 18 years ago, and that was the only time.
Oh, wow.
That was the only time, and she forced me to go. She
I
forced
think
me to
that,
go.
but for COVID, you might at this point in time be doing a lot more. It's just the way things have played
Yeah,
out
yeah.
that, is preventing you from getting out there.
I
But,
cannot wait. I
huh?
cannot wait for this COVID to pass. I just can't wait.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a story for another day.
Right.
Well, are there any other topics that you want to discuss in this area before we conclude this episode?
Yes, there is. And the reason why is because I saw this kid the other, well, she wasn't a kid, it was a young adult. She was about 17, 18 years old. And that was something I definitely don't want to, we can even bring it up on the next topic. But I heard her and her mother arguing. My kids are allowed to, stand their ground to me, because I feel like I'm the only person they can practice on. You know,
Okay.
everything else in life, it's real. When it's time for you to argue your point or fight for your rights or whatever, that's the real thing. So when you and I are doing it, you know that I'm not going to do anything to you. You know we can get heated in here and I'm going to love you afterwards. That's
Mhm.
not how it is in the real world. But I saw this um and it was a young black girl, and the things she was saying to her mother brought me into tears. Like I was like, there's got to be something I should say to her to get her to see whatever your mother did to make you feel like you should spit this kind of venom on her. You're not going to win in the end. Like that karma is not going to be blessing for you. I don't know what she did, because she was saying things and cursing at her and saying and I should have stepped in. I wanted to step in, but I didn't know.
Know that you could make a difference in that kind of situation, because that kind of pattern is something that is built up over years.
Mhm.
And sometimes when you really go back to the root of it, you see that the disrespect started at the parental side,
I
and
totally
then it
agree.
created that. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel that my children can say their piece. They may not, you won't let me say my part. Yeah, you can say it, but
Mhm.
I need, you have to say it in a way that's not
Right.
just
Now, what you say is how you
how
say it.
disrespectful. Like they don't curse to me.
Yeah, mine
They
are.
don't yell at me. I mean, their voice can get a little heated, and then I'll be saying, "You need to lower your voice." But I want them to say what they need to say.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that that they always feel that they can. But I say, I'm here to hear you. Well, I
Mhm.
just won't say anything. Well, I want to hear what you have to
Yes,
say.
we've gone through
Go
that too.
ahead and say what you have to say,
Right.
and it can be really not so great, something I'm not gonna like, but it's the way
Mhm.
you say it, you know. Yeah, but I've seen some stuff on the internet, man. I've seen some stuff on social media. My kids would be in the hospital. I saw a girl just calling her mother every name in the book,
Oh,
taking her dishes and stuff out the cabinet, throwing that stuff. I mean, I was like, girl, I don't even know how y'all got to a point where that's an acceptable
mhm.
pattern of behavior, because, yeah, no, I mean, that sounds sad though.
Yeah, and that's something I often want to ask different parents, like how far do you go with your children able to argue, talk to you? Because our era, I wouldn't have made it to this era if I was to remotely have talked to anybody grown like that ever. There
My
would have been
dad and I went hard. My
really
dad taught, man, he didn't raise me either, but I got raised by his mother, so he was around more,
okay.
intermittent, not
Mhm.
whatever. That's a whole nother story. But when he
Okay.
was around, he had taught me to go hard. I mean, I mean, I guess I was that way anyway. I have an
Mhm.
opinion,
Mhm.
but I was able to stand my ground, and we would go back and forth. I remember when he when he got remarried, I was in college, but I probably was only 16, 17 or something.
Mhm.
And I was in the back seat of a car. He was driving, and I recall his wife, who really became a dear friend to me. I
Mhm.
recall her just physically cringing, because we have opinions. We will go
Wow.
for it. Now, I never cursed
Right.
or
Mhm.
anything like that, but I stand my ground, and I
Right.
learned it with him. And he taught me to, if you're gonna be so opinionated, you better be ready to defend it.
Okay.
And I was there for it, but
Okay.
so I was taught that, and I felt like I tried to teach them that. But I would be curious whether they feel that they get enough
Maybe
leeway.
that's what we have to
We
do.
should have them next time, maybe.
Yeah.
I did tell them we're going to be needing them to participate.
Right.
Maybe we should ask them, do they feel that they've been given enough leeway to say the things they need to be able to
Mhm.
say? That's an interesting.
Do that.
Let's see if we can get them to do that with us.
Love that very much.
Do you think your girls and your son would do that too?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll
Absolutely.
ask them. Hey, I don't know if my son might be working on Thursday, but I'll talk to him tomorrow, and I'll see if they could just call in. I'll figure it out. They can join briefly
Mhm.
and just say their piece.
Okay. That would be nice. I would like
That's a good topic. Thanks for bringing that one up.
absolutely.
So I guess that does it for us today.
That does.
All right. Well, thank you very much for participating with us today. I'm Kim.
I'm Tora.
And this has been Parenting Young Adults with Kimm and Torra. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you.
Bye bye.